looks like we're back in business. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. It's going to be the determining of the fiscal year 24 cycle.
No.
Oh, that's right. Almost forgot the hospital.
That's a bad thing. Yeah.
Okay. We will now go to Central Peninsula Hospital report by Sean Keefe, the Chief Executive Officer. Sorry that I forgot you.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor Whitney, Vice Mayor Parker, City Council members for having us here tonight to present. This is my first time in this chambers and really looking forward to having a more regular meeting with you. Would love to do that over time. So apologize. It's been so long since the hospital was actually presented in this forum. Tonight, I want to go over a couple of things. There's really 5 items. I want to talk a little bit about our mission and vision statement, talk about some statistics that we have that we've seen over the course of this last fiscal year, go over our community needs assessment that was performed in 2022, which we're still working on meeting those goals within the identified issues within that survey. Talk a little bit about our next survey that's coming up a year from now. And then talk a little bit about future projects and efforts that we're going through at this current time. And so looking at our mission and vision statement, this changed and was approved by the Central Peninsula General Hospital Board.
Just another technical glitch.
No worries.
So sorry, you guys do have this digitally. You can follow along if you want him to continue, and I can continue to work on this.
Go ahead. We'll
Excellent.
keep going.
Excellent. So as I was saying, the mission and vision statement changed this year. The Central Peninsula General Hospital Incorporated Board approved a new mission and vision statement in March. And so our new mission statement, which you'll see posted all over the hospital, is nurturing our community by promoting health and wellness through quality healthcare. A lot shorter than our previous one. Our previous one was pretty long. Hard for staff to memorize. And then our new vision statement is to focus on the needs of the individuals guided by people's preferences and values and a culture of quality, compassion, and partnership. And this really goes along with what we deem the Central Peninsula CPH way. So CPH way is really compassionate, personalized healthcare and how we do business at the hospital. I want to go over some of our statistics. Our fiscal year runs from July 1st through the end of June. So July 1st through June 30th. So just a little under 2 months ago, we finalized our prior fiscal year, which was a record-breaking year as far as statistics go. I always like to put these stats out there just to let you know how much the hospital is utilized. And so this is a similar slide that I present at the Borough Assembly meeting, which I'll be presenting at next Tuesday. So you're getting a head start on this before the borough even gets to see it. But looking at last fiscal year, there's just a couple of line items that I want to go through real quick. Clearly, when you look at the comparison of the prior fiscal year to the one we just completed, we capped all of the line items except for one, which was the acute care patient days, which was down 355 days overall. However, if you look at the line item just under that, swing bed days, those are also patient beds that are staffed beds being occupied by patients. That was up 491. And so when you combine those two and just say, well, how busy was the hospital as far as inpatients go? We were up 136 days year over year. And so really, when you look at that, we've overcome the prior year. And the prior year was a record-breaking year. We've hit 3 record-breaking years in a row statistically at the hospital. It's been pretty incredible. Just a few lines that I want to look at here. Of course, I wanted to point out that acute care patient days and the swing beds, we had 385 births this year. And so If you can look up there on the chart, we only expected to have 340. And so, well, if we were comparing ourselves to last year and we budgeted about that same amount, so we were up 45 from where we were the previous year. So that's always an impressive figure to look at. Also want to point out emergency room visits. This is the second year that we've hit just over 17,000 emergency room visits. So we had 37 over what we had in the prior fiscal year. So it's 17,000 individuals that entered our emergency department for services during the course of the fiscal year. I always like to look at the clinic visits as well as the emergency room visits. And next on that list that we have there, I want to go down to family practice visits. Just right under 12,000 visits overall, 494 visits greater than what we had in the prior year. And then when you look at our specialty clinics, and specialty clinics include everything that's not family practice. So internal medicine, our oncology clinic, surgical podiatry, gastroenterology, spine clinic, all the clinics combined that are not family practice, we were just over 39,000 visits. So it's always pretty incredible to think about 39,000 visits in our specialty clinics. And that's compared to the prior year of 34,000. So when you add the family practice visits and those specialty clinic visits, the clinics that we had, not considering the urgent care clinic, saw 5,000 more visits this year versus the prior year. And so much more utilization for our facility. I attribute that to individuals not wanting to go to Anchorage, wanting to stay home. And we want them to stay home. We want to provide all the services that we can to keep individuals here in our community. Urgent care visits, adding those on there. The last line that you see there, 8,087 overall visits, up 1,280 visits compared to the prior year. We just love our urgent care facility. It's just right outside Walmart over in Kenai. The great thing about that urgent care is the fact that individuals could go there without going to the emergency department when they can't get a visit with their primary care. And they don't want the expense of going to the emergency department. That clinic is open 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it accommodates individuals with families. I don't know about you, but when my kids got sick, it was always about 8 o'clock on a Friday evening. And we couldn't get to a doctor. And so having the urgent care is very helpful. So one question that I get often is a question about our community needs assessment. Community needs assessment is performed every 3 years. This is an IRS requirement. The last one we performed was in 2022. We'll be performing another one in 2025. So about a year from now, we'll be preparing to send those out. What we do in the course of this needs assessment is we try to identify what are the community needs from the community perspective, from the key stakeholder perspective, from the community perspective. What should we be doing as a hospital to serve the community better? When we look at our top needs this last round, we saw mental health being number one, substance abuse being number two, nutrition, physical activity, and weight being number three, injury and violence, number four, heart disease and stroke, number five, access to healthcare services, number six, disability and chronic pain, number seven, and number eight is cancer. I want to talk about cancer just a little bit. If you go back to 2013, that was number one on our list. Cancer was the number one identified item in the public size that needed to be addressed by our hospital. Well, since 2013, we erected the River Tower. On the third floor, we've got a beautiful infusion center. We've got now 2 hematologists, oncologists on board. So we opened up an oncology clinic. We not only do oncology services here, but we also assist down in Homer with that population. So there are some individuals that come up here and receive those services. That was number one back in 2013. We concentrated heavily on it, and now it's number 8. And so that's how this works. We look at our number 1 through 8, and we concentrate heavily on those during the course of 3 years. And then we put out another survey and see where we landed on that. I'm hoping that in 2025, we'll see the cancer come completely off of there. And we'll be able to replace it with other items that the community views as important. Big news as far as the items that we have here, and I'm going to go through these through the next slide. The biggest news that I have is that when we get these community needs assessments, we don't just lay down and say, yeah, we see cancer as an issue, we see mental health as an issue, and we'll just wait to see what it is in that 3 years from now. We put a lot of concentration on these and focus on these items here. And so when we look at mental health, we basically combine mental health and substance abuse here. In this last fiscal year, we opened up a Central Peninsula Mental Wellness Clinic. And so we have a psychiatrist in there, 2 psych NPs. Our goal is to eventually have 3 psychiatrists in there, as well as a psychologist and therapist. This is our psychiatrist came on board on July 1st. This is the first psychiatrist that has ever worked at Central Peninsula Hospital. So we've never been in this space before. But as we see this on our needs assessment, we know it's an issue, and we know it's an issue just through the patients that we see. So we opened up the wellness clinic. We also increased our care transition detox center from 7 beds to 10 beds so that we could address more of those substance use abuse type issues that we have. So we opened up more beds through that. We're also working on a mobile crisis pilot project, which we're hoping, it's actually a pilot project in Nikiski right now. We're hoping, and once it gets up and running, then we'll see this go across our service area. This gives us the ability to work with law enforcement, work with EMS and the fire departments in addressing mobile crisis issues when those individuals that are out there that are having a mental issue, mental moment, behavioral health moment, substance abuse moment, we can be there on site and take care of them and work in partnerships with, again, law enforcement and the EMS. Looking at nutrition, obesity, diabetes, tobacco use, we opened up a diabetes clinic this year. So that's another service line that we've jumped into to provide more access for diabetes. We have a walk with a doc program that every month we have a physician on our medical staff that walks with the community. And it's open to anyone that wants to come out and participate in that, different topics for different providers and specialists. We also opened up our health fairs. As you know, we closed down health fairs during the COVID, and those have opened back up, and we're performing many more of those during the course of time. Injury with violence, this is really addressed up in the mental health and lifestyle section, but that wellness clinic is a big key point to this. Looking at heart disease and stroke, we did become participants as a participant site in the Rapid Alaska Stroke Care Initiative, which is Rapid AI. It's a program that really helps us identify and diagnose strokes early on in the symptoms. So that's something that we've focused on this last year. We've also brought on 2 more neurologists. And so we did just have 1 neurologist. Now we've got 3. The 3rd one will be coming on in this next month. And so they'll be able to help us address some of those stroke issues that we see in our emergency department and throughout our community. When we look at access to primary care, there's a lot that we've got going on here. We've recruited over 22 physicians in the last 12 months. We've got 10 of them coming on board in the next couple of months. We added 3 new internal medicine physicians. We're starting and we'll see our first internal medicine residents through a partnership with UW, University of Washington. It is actually the first and only rural track internal medicine residency program in the nation, right here in Soldotna. We've got 2 candidates that are 2 individual residents that are doing their first year at the University of Washington, and they started in July, on July 1st. And next July 1st, there'll be boots on the ground here in our community. And then we'll have 2 more that are coming on board through the program. So over the course of the next several years, we'll have 4 residents going through a residency program through the hospital. We also added a pediatrician who is actually stationed over in Kenai, added 5 additional family practice physicians. We have 2 additional physician extenders. These are APPs, nurse practitioners or PAs that work along with physicians and help expand their panel of patients. And we're also working with the school district on a school-based health clinic pilot. So I'll talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. As far as disability and chronic pain, we brought on 2 interventional pain physicians to help with interventional pain management and focusing on that. And then cancer care, we have 2 hematologists, oncologists who are board certified in hematology and oncology. Prior to this year, we only had 1 medical oncologist. Now we have 2 hematologist oncologists. So we've grown that service. When we look at the future projects that we have going on, mobile crisis, as I talked about earlier, being able to get out there in the community and partner with our law enforcement EMS to deal with individuals that are going through crisis moments with mental health, substance use, and behavioral health. That's a big project and something that will very much benefit the community and benefit the healthcare system as well. We're working with the school district right now on a pilot project up in Kenai. And it's just a pilot project right now, but we plan to see this extend. And it is a school-based health clinic project where there will actually be a health clinic inside the school. This will be managed through a telehealth cart with a registered nurse on site, and students will be able to come in. It's really urgent care. This is not for primary care or emergency room type visits. This is urgent care type visits, but our goal is to decrease disparity within our youth and make sure that the individuals can get care when they need it and at the time that they need it without having to leave the school. Also allows parents to be ensured that their kiddos can be treated and parents don't even have to leave work. They can actually FaceTime in to the visit while the nurse is there and it's patched in with the physician. So pretty neat little project. It's something that's, I was a CEO in Oklahoma. We started a program similar to this in 2018. And it's in 7 schools down there right now. And it's really kind of rolling across the US because of the disparity that we have within our kiddos. Master planning for the future is something that's on the horizon. As you see those statistics grow, know that it doesn't come without growing pains. And so growing pains and some stress fractures. We currently employ at the hospital 1,300 staff members, which is the largest employer on the peninsula at this time. The school district is about 1,200. That's all across the peninsula. We're at 1,300 just within our system here, and the majority of those being in the hospital here in Soldotna. With that, we are going into master planning, looking at 5-10 years out to try to determine what we need over the course of time as we grow. Because what we've had to do with that growth is find new clinic space, find new office space, and remodel. You know, the River Tower opened up in 2017. We've remodeled the first floor on that twice now to add additional space for physicians to practice out of. And so this master plan gives us the opportunity to push out and look at our next project, what we need to build next to care for our community. And then last on that list is just that internal medicine residency program, which we're really excited about. Really excited to be the first in the nation to have that program right here. To be successful in getting it up and running was a phenomenal feat that took a lot of work. And we can't wait to get those residents here. And our hopes are that those residents will go through that program and that we'll be able to keep several of those because they'll say they love it here so much, which we all love it here. And over the course of the last year, when we're recruiting those 22 new physicians, when they come and interview, and we had one just today, a urologist, that he said, "What's different about this place? There's just something different." And it's the culture and it's the family environment and the teamwork that takes place. And it's the CPH way. So I entertain any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Carey?
Primary thing I want to do is to thank you. Those of us who have been here and watched the development of healthcare on the Kenai Peninsula, it is phenomenal. The idea that you are that healthcare is the largest employer, again, is wonderful. As someone living with cancer, I want to tell you how appreciative I am of not having to make trips to Anchorage, not having to have tests up there. The staff here is wonderful, and it's just a huge benefit. I don't know what the numbers would be, but if everyone had to drive to Anchorage that gets medical care here, I have to assume there'd be many more accidents and many more other things. And so the lives that are being saved, not just inside the hospital, but again, by not having to go to Anchorage. So I am extremely pleased and appreciative of the work of the hospital.
Thank you. We appreciate that. That means a lot.
Anyone else? Mr. Nelson?
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm just curious, just because you sort of touched on it right at the end. So these new physicians and new practitioners that are coming, we know that I'd say nationwide, the trend is, it's hard to recruit, retain those qualified folks. What does that look like for the hospital here? Are you attracting people or people staying? What's kind of staffing look like in
Yeah,
general
so
terms?
that's a good question. And I'll talk a little bit about the physician side first. We have a phenomenal medical staff. I mean, I can tell you the individual that came today, a urologist, he went to the University of Washington for med school, did his residency at Harvard, is currently doing a fellowship in robotics. These are the types of candidates that we get. We've got an orthopedic surgeon that's going to be an upper extremity specialist that's coming this next month. He did his undergraduate at Notre Dame, played for the Detroit Red Wings hockey for several years, went to Wake Forest for med school, and is again just a phenomenal candidate. Our medical staff is incredible. It's this place, it's this environment. They love being here. They come here for a reason because and we all know what it is because it's why we're all here as well. This last year, recruiting we've had to be diligent about it. We've had to make really good decisions and screen candidates very well to make sure that we're getting top talent coming into our community and individuals that want to stay. That most of these individuals that we're recruiting this year, especially, have roots somewhere in Alaska, so they're already familiar. They have some connection. So that's on the medical staff side. And, at this point, just to let you know, of that 1,300 staff count, over 100 of those are physicians right now that are employed by the hospital, under the hospital's umbrella. When we look at general staff, one question I often get is, how many travelers do you have? How many individuals do you have that are coming in? They're just temporary workers filling in a gap while you're trying to find someone permanent. So out of 1,300 staff members, we're running 44 today. That is, as of this morning, 44 travelers. Now, these are travelers being nurses, techs, and therapists, and clinicians. We have some clinicians fitting that role too. And so I would dare to say that when you look at that percentage, it's much lower than what you're seeing in the lower 48. And you have a lot more traveling that's taking place down than the lower 48 and facilities that are struggling much more than our facility. I've said it many times, and in pound for pound, this is the most successful hospital in Alaska. I know Providence is much bigger than ours, but pound for pound, it's just been phenomenal. And we've been lucky to be able to retain individuals over time. So thanks for the question.
Vice Mayor Parker?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor Whitney. And thank you, Mr. Key, for coming, and I hope you come back next year and provide us with another update. The hospital is a core part of our community, and You mentioned walk with a dog, and if you noticed, the city of Sultana is in the process of building a field house. And on the second floor of that field house will be a walk. So maybe we can talk about a partnership with the hospital in doing walk with the dog at the field house when
that-
it's done.
That would be super. Yeah, I owe Kyle a return on an email, that exchange that we're having on some of those conversations.
Anything else? I think some of us can remember a few years back that it was very difficult to even find a doctor around this area. And I think it was in 1979 when my son was down here, when we were down here from Fairbanks, and he broke his leg. And it was what we ended up doing is flying him back to Fairbanks because there wasn't a facility here that was something that was going to be in the hospital for a couple of weeks. So things have changed a lot, and definitely for the better. So thank you. And for the number of years I've been on the council and as chair here, I don't believe we have ever had a presentation from the hospital. I do not recall.
I think
ever.
I couldn't find one of those either. So that's why I hope it's less than a year that I've come back, because there's just so much going on with the organization. And I close with this. This year we paid off the Mountain Tower, the GO bonds. That was paid off this year. The hospital has paid, we pay all our own debt service. If you look on your taxes, it's a 0.01 mill levy. For my household, that was $1.84 this year, and it's not utilized to subsidize any of the operations. It's really utilized to help subsidize some of the audit. And so the hospital is successful without any subsidies from taxpayers, and we pay our own debt service. And so I was glad to see this year, 2024, Mountain Towers paid off completely. And all we've got left is two more bonds to pay off, which are revenue bonds, one being on the new cath lab and OB section, and then the River Tower will be paid off in 2029. In between now and then, we'll every year pay that debt service on behalf of the taxpayers, because that's what we do. Thank you.
Very much. Now we'll move on to the next agenda item, and this will be determining the fiscal 24 cycle 1 mini grant awards and mini grant applicant presentation. The first one, 5-minute presentation by Soldotna Silver Salmon Swim Team, and that would be by Anna Moynihan. Did I mangle that too bad?
You hear me okay? Okay, that was loud, sorry. Good evening, my name's Anastasia Monahan. I live at 40292 Diamond Willow Lane in Soldotna. I am here speaking to you on behalf of the Soldotna Silver Salmon Swim Team, an organization that was created in 1980 and run by a completely volunteer parent board and continues to today. The swim team's mission is to provide the opportunity to all children to participate in a competitive sport. They learn to set goals, work hard to achieve them, and then reset higher goals, skills that will carry them throughout life. The age group for our team is 5 to 18 years old. We rely heavily on our membership dues to maintain our operating budget, along with some fundraising in our most generous community. But as we know, every sport team, every dance group out there reaches out to our community, and they're very generous. But we have really asked quite a bit from our local businesses. Soldotna Silver Salmon would like to purchase a large flat screen TV with the wall mount that would be used in several ways. Swimmers can be shown various techniques to improve their skills to assist them on accomplishing their goals. The swimmers would not need to exit the pool to be able to visualize. Currently, they need to come out. A coach is using their phone. They have to gather around the coach with this little phone to see. This way, with the TV, it'll be live and instant feedback, and they could stay in the pool without having to exit. We would share the TV with other patrons who use the pool, which will also benefit the community. Our state is surrounded by water. We all know this, and swimming is a very crucial skill. And I think it's a very crucial skill for all of our community to know. We ask that the city consider us for a mini grant to help build our youth and give them a productive activity to occupy their time. Let's help our future kids achieve their goals. They are our future. They will be us soon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I thank you for your leadership.
Any questions? Vice Mayor Parker? Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
I thought I saw you reaching for the microphone.
But, so thank you for the presentation. How many swimmers did you say you have?
Currently, we're at 44 swimmers. We had a little hard hit with COVID, but we're building our team right now. We've been working on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How are you going to protect this TV from water? That's,
Oh, it can be, if it's a wall mount, it could be protected. It'll be up on the wall and away from, I mean, it is near the pool, but I think we are going to have to figure that out. I don't have the answer to that particularly, but I'm sure there's ways we could put a screen, a clear screen around it to protect it.
in which pool are you using?
I'm sorry, this is the Soldotna High School pool. Soldotna Silver Salmon swims at so high.
Thank
Pool.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The next applicant is Way Out Women, and that will be by Cheryl Tachek. All right. I was close.
There it goes.
There we go.
Sorry. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Cheryl Tachik, and I'm here on behalf of Way Out Women. Way Out Women is an organization nonprofit that was actually established by the oncology nurse from the hospital. Her name was Kathy Lopman, and she saw the need in the community for patients that couldn't meet their bills, pay doctor bills, traveling, things like that. So what we do is we have fundraisers, of course, and we try to do that once a year for sure, and then sometimes even more. We raise the money to give them a grant that is signed by a doctor. They sign that so that we make it sure it's legal that they do have cancer. And we give them that money to be able to pay what they need to. We have been doing this for 20 years. And first and foremost, the reason why we would like the mini grant is to help us get out the news a little bit more. There are a lot of people that don't know that we exist. We try to give that information to the oncology department, of course, here at the hospital and all doctors involved. And we would like to be able to afford some of our bills, which is stamps. We buy T-shirts for our event and food, of course, because we have a big event that way. So we'd like to be able to bring out the awareness in our community a little more as well. And I'd like to say that the grant is not just about funding, it's about being able to present what we are out there for. And I really appreciate your time in this application. So,
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Ms.
Yes, Ms.
Wackler?
Wackler.
Do you have any idea how many people you've helped? throughout
oh
the
my heavens.
organization?
Just last week, I wrote 6 grants. Just last week.
And these are small, I
We
assume.
give them $500. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, we used to be able to do 1,000, but because of COVID and and other issues that have been involved. We used to always give 1,000, now we had to go down to 500. So, but yeah, probably this year we've given out at least 35 to 40. That's how much, yeah.
Any other questions for the council?
Yes, Miss Hutchins.
Ms. Hutchins?
Yes, Ms. Tatchik, I was wondering if you knew about the Kenai Peninsula Foundation. We do give grants to different organizations, so you might want to make sure that you look at that in the spring. because
Okay, that'd be great.
They give anywhere from 500 to 3,000.
Fabulous. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And actually, my wife received one of these grants
What recipient?
a
Yes, sir.
number of years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Thank you for your presentation.
Very good. Thank you very much.
And I'm now looking for a motion to approve these two grants. Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. I would move that we approve the mini grants for the Silver Salmon Swim Team and the Way Out Women.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Any discussion? Any objections to awarding the grants? Seeing none, the grants have been awarded by unanimous consent. Moving on to the next agenda item is number 5, public comments and presentations. Items other than those appearing on the agenda. Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom, and I see no hands raised there. So moving on to the next agenda item, Assembly and Legislative Reports. Are there any representatives from the borough or the state in attendance who would like to speak? And I don't see any here in the audience, nor do I see any on Zoom. So we'll move on to the next agenda item, public hearings. Ordinance 2024-027, accepting grant funds from the United States Environmental Protection Agency and increasing estimated revenues and appropriations by $1,960,000 in the Utility System Capital Improvements Fund for Phase 2 of the Biosolids Dewatering Replacement Project, introduced by the city manager. May I have a motion to enact? Mr. Nelson,
Thank you. Move to enact ordinance 2024-027.
may I
I'll
have a second,
second.
please? Thank you, Mr. Chilson. A report from the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In 2023, Senator Murkowski sponsored 3 congressionally directed spending CDS requests for the biosolids dewatering project. Those were also for pH control headworks rehabilitation projects. And due to an escalation of the costs, those projects were combined, those project awards were combined into one project, the biosolids dewatering project. And this officially appropriates the funds for that project.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on ordinance 2024-027? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom, and I see no hands raised there. Having no one wishing to speak, the item is back before the council. Are there any council comments? Mr. Carey?
I have a request for the city manager, and I'm not expecting it real quickly because it might take a little bit of time. When I think of us getting $1,960,000 from the federal government, I would be interested in knowing, with all the different money we get from the federal government, if instead we had to generate that from property tax, what would that require us to charge? In that, I certainly know sales tax, wonderful, wonderful. I want to do everything we can to be sure that people appreciate the fact that we get a huge amount of support from the federal government. And so just one way to help is to have that type of statistic. So again, I'm not looking to create a huge amount of work, but I'd just like to get some idea. If we had to raise these funds from property tax to pay for these city functions, what would that require in terms of a rate?
Okay.
Thank you. I hope that makes sense.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Vice Mayor Parker?
Thank you, Mayor Whitney, again for the city manager. Are these funds subject to the Buy America, Build America?
Yes, they are. There's a portion of them that are. And we are, as you know, currently working on BABA requirements for the Fieldhouse project, and we will work with on it as well. So far, it appears, and still in the process of gaining all the information, that the BABA requirements for this is not as stringent as they are for the Fieldhouse project, but we're still working through that process.
Mr. Jolson?
To Mr. Curry's point, just back of the napkin math, we raised $344,000 in property tax revenue in FY '23, so it'd be roughly a 550% increase in property taxes to do that. Just for $1.9 million in revenue.
Anything else from the council? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
Chilson,
Yes.
Wackler,
Yes.
Hutchings,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes.
Ordinance 2024-027 passes on a 6-0 vote. Moving on to the next agenda items is new business, and let me work my way through this and see if we have any. And we do. Resolution 2024-024, authorizing the issuance of a general obligation bond anticipation note in the principal amount of not to exceed $5 million to finance part of the cost of the construction of a field house at Soldotna Regional Sports Complex, pending the issuance of a general obligation bond, fixing certain details of such note, authorizing its sale, and providing for related matters, introduced by the city manager. May I have a motion to adopt? Ms. Hutchings?
Make a motion to enact Resolution 2024-024.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Report from the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I verify that our bond attorney, Mark Greeno, is on the line?
I don't see anybody on there.
Okay, he was previously on, and I think through the technical difficulties, dropped off of that, dropped off. I'm sorry, I didn't see him on there. I did at one point. All right, so Melanie, if you could come up here as well, and then we will walk through it. Melanie had a conversation with the bond attorney, and part of it, previously we've spoken about arbitrage and the arbitrage and the original bond funds, and working through that process to make sure, all of our I's were dotted and our T's were crossed. In that conversation, Melanie spoke with the bond attorney, Mark Greeno, regarding the next tranche of funding, the remaining $5 million. And, our concern has been all along, we don't want to take out all of it if we don't need all of it. So, talking through that process, and Mr. Greeno suggested that I'm going to make sure I have the correct term. In essence, I'm going to bond anticipation note. In essence, it's a line of credit for the remaining portion of the funding. This allows us to have this line of credit, use the funding we need, and then when the project is done, to pay for the line of credit with the bond. It does not change the voter-approved bond debt at all, authority at all. Anything you'd like to add before I go to the next process? Okay, thank you. So through that, Mr. Greeno helped us with the RFP. We put out an RFP and we had 3 respondents for the RFP. And also excuse me, thank you. They were sent out to 3, 2 responded. And he assisted Melanie with scoring the RFPs. And through that, I'm scrolling through, recommendation is toward to Northern Bank. And you do see the proposal is in the packet. And this approves this issuance of the bond anticipation note as well as working with Northern Bank. I do believe that on yes, on the table, you do have some amendments. After going through the contract, we refined some language. And Melanie, anything else? That's a overview. High
That's a
level
great
overview.
overview.
Are there any questions that you need to answer?
It'll be after the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on resolution 2024-024? Seeing none, I'll take a look at Zoom, and there are no hands raised there. Having no one wishing to speak, the item is back before the council. And I understand and see here there are a number of motions to be made for amendments. Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. I would like to make a motion to amend the first, third, and fifth whereas clause. And do you want me to read it, or can I just refer to the memo dated August 28th, 2024?
Through the mayor, Vice Mayor Parker, we do not need to read the amendments in their entirety as they have provided to all of the members of the public that are here as well as online. So it is not necessary to read them all into the record.
Okay, so I would move the amendment number 1, which would amend the first, third, and fifth whereas clauses.
Second?
And then I would ask city manager or the finance director to address these.
And do we have a second on that?
That was David.
Okay.
And excuse
Yeah.
me, if I may,
Go.
I think you can do the entire memo. You don't have to break them
Okay.
up.
I would move that we amend this resolution and then amend section 2. And then we have the third is to amend section 3. The fourth would be to section 4. And the final would be to amend section 5.
And second?
Okay. Has everyone on the council had the opportunity to read the memo and understand those amendments? Okay. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that the vice mayor asked that we speak to these amendments, and I am going to, looking at the first section, that truly is clarifying rather than facilities, because it's an overall project, ultimately end in a facility, but this is a project and it will fund the project portion. Section 2, I'm actually going to refer to Melanie on this one.
I don't have that in front of me, but I can tell you that the bond attorney is the one that prepared the
Right.
original resolution, and it was kind of boilerplate. And then he sent it out to Northram's legal counsel, and then there were some recommendations that came back, and this is just addressing some of the particulars that they recommended. And other than that, I can't
Okay.
speak to much more. Steve Manley's here from from Northram. He might be able to elaborate a little bit on that since Mark's not available.
Before we go any further, has the media had a chance to get a copy of this?
It's on the back.
Mr. Mayor.
Do you have any ideas? I think it was just addressing some of the particulars that Northram wanted to see in the contract.
Yeah, it really had to do mostly with meeting the terms the city.
For the record, Steve, could you state your name?
Steve Manley, Lightning Branch Manager, Northern Bank, working with the city on the note. Yeah, so the revisions were slight, I would say, minor tweaks from what bond counsel had proposed and cleaning up language to make sure we were meeting the needs of the RFP that we were awarded.
And Mr. Mayor, and
Go ahead.
I would agree, and I characterize them as being clarifying in nature. At one point it says the, rather than in that sentence, I'm in section 4, that it expands on what really law would refer to. So they're clarifying in nature. And as Mr. Manley stated, they were approved both with our bond council and Northern.
Any questions from the council to Mr. Manley or Ms. Imholt?
I'm happy to address any specific item.
Yeah. Mr. Carey?
Well, my question was to deal with the overall rather than
Okay.
just these amendments.
All right.
So I am hoping to ask him a question.
And I'll stay.
Anything from anybody? We're ready to vote? Yes, on the amendment. We'll call for a vote on the amendment, changing the resolution as outlined in the memorandum.
Nelson,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Chilson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Hutchings,
Yes.
Wackler.
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes.
The amendments passed 6-0. Now back to the main motion, which is the resolution as amended. Any discussion on it? Mr. Carey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manley. I'm wondering the interest rate, at least I read it correctly, it's 4.82%.
Correct.
How does that compare in general in terms of, I have to assume there's some type of scale for different things. Where does that fit in?
That's a rate that we developed internally in responding to the RFP, which is a competitive process. How it compares to tax exempt financing, it's in the ballpark, so to speak, but I'm not an absolute subject matter expert in municipal finance per se. That's a very dynamic market overall. Our rate proposed had to do with our interest in being a part of this project and winning this part of the relationship with the city.
So it kind of,
Go ahead.
so just, I kind of know the answer, but I want to hear it. Assuming we approve this, then the bank's going to agree with it and we'll go forward, correct?
Yeah, correct. We have underwritten this already.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Mr. Nelson?
So maybe if I can just be 100% clear, I'm understanding. So if we were to bond something, we would get, the first tranche, which was that dollar amount. Somebody would hand us that dollar amount. So what we're proposing is a line of credit that we could draw from as needed and then bond that debt. And so, did I understand the process correctly would be? And thank you, Ms. Bauer. So it seems to me this is a very wise, conservative approach to make to doing this. We're not taking any more debt than the project would require. So thank you for that clarification. I appreciate, I don't know if this is particularly unique, but I don't think we've done it in the time I've been here. So I appreciate this instrument of going forward.
Any other discussion from the council? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. On the resolution 2024-24 as amended.
Wackler,
Yes.
Hutchings,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Chilson.
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes.
Resolution 2024-024 passes on a 6-0 vote. I know there's something else in here. Let me find it.
8.8.
Okay. Next item is Resolution 2024-026, requesting the 2026 and 2027 Cook Inlet Finfish regulatory meetings be held in Soldotna, Alaska, to provide resource stakeholders with the opportunity to be present at a public discussion affecting the management of the resources, introduced by the mayor. May I have a motion to adopt? Vice Mayor Parker.
I move to enact resolution 2024-026.
May I have a second, please?
Second, please.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. I guess the reports from me. The Fish Board has not met down here in eons. And this is a motion or a resolution from the city to support their meeting here during the 2026 and 2027. The other assembly and other cities within the Kenai Peninsula are also going to be presenting a joint resolution to do this, but there was a quick deadline on this of September the 5th. And so I had wanted to bring this before the council now, so we do get it approved. And the action memorandum later on is authorization for me to sign the joint resolution that'll be passed by hopefully passed by the other organizations. So we'll move on to public testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on Resolution 2024-026? Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name's Cassidy Cameron, and I'm the Executive Director for the Kenai Peninsula Economic Development District. I live in Ninilchik, but I work in Kenai, and I represent the majority of the borough and the stakeholders that we're talking about today. I want to thank you, number one, for your consideration of this resolution and for this topic. The Board of Fish has not met as a regulatory body on the peninsula since 1999. They've done work sessions, so that's 25 years for any quick math out there. That's a whole generation of community members that have not been able to participate directly in the communities that their resources being managed under. So we thought it was high time that we do a formal request for the Board of Fish to consider, and we wanted to consider having it here in Soldotna beginning in 2026 at the new field house, and it would provide adequate space. We have been in discussions with all of the other city managers as well as the borough mayor on how to make this happen, and you know, we're better together, and we have some unity and some momentum behind us to make a compelling argument and a compelling case for the Board of Fish to reconsider their past decisions and bring this back to the stakeholders that they're managing. And the Upper Cook Inlet deserves to have the managing bodies here in our communities, listening to its stakeholders and its participants. And so we really do appreciate your guys' consideration of this resolution and also the joint resolution. And we're very optimistic in making a compelling argument so that they cannot find a reason to say no. So I thank you very much.
Any questions from the council or comments? Thank you. I might add, they had a very nice brochure put together that goes along with it, and I didn't get a chance to email it out to anyone because it was on a website. So anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on Resolution 2024-026? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom, and I see no hands raised on Zoom. So it's back before the council. Any discussion, comments? I'm sorry? Oh, there was an amendment. I'm sorry about that. Vice Mayor Poster, go ahead.
Yes, I would move to amend Resolution 2024-026 with the memorandum that is in our packet dated August 28th that would add a new final whereas joint resolution supports the efforts of the Kenai Peninsula Economic Development District, requests that the 2026 and 27 Cook Inlet Fin Fish meetings be held in Soldotna, Alaska to provide resources stakeholders with the opportunity to be present for public discussion affecting the management of their resources, and add a new section 2 to read that the Soldotna City Council authorizes the mayor of the city of Soldotna to sign joint resolution 2024-002 on behalf of the city of Soldotna.
May I have a second to that amendment? Second. Thank you, Ms. Hutchings. Discussion. As I stated earlier, there's a joint resolution that
I was going to speak to the resolution itself, not the amendment, so I'll wait till the amendment passes.
Lost my chain of thought, which isn't too difficult at this time of night, but it was to the joint resolution that's being proposed and presented to the Assembly and the various city councils. Like I said, it was a tight time frame of September 5th deadline to get this put together. So that's why we went with this, or why I went with this resolution. And this amendment will just authorize the signing of that joint resolution when it's passed by the other groups. So, any other discussion on that amendment? Saying none, we'll call for the roll on the amendment.
Carrie,
Yes.
Chilson,
Yes.
Parker, Hutchings,
Yes.
Wackler,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes.
Okay. Resolution 2024, the amendment to Resolution 2024-026 passes on a 6-0 vote. We're back to the main motion now as amended. Any discussion on that? Mr. Carey?
First, a question to our manager. Would we assume that if they had the meeting here, it'd be at the Sports Center?
At the field house, yes.
Would there be a charge for that? Would they pay anything to use our
There
facility?
will be fees for our facility. We would have to talk further about that. If there would be a charge for this activity.
Would you be opposed if we, in this motion, said that we would, we'd be open to no charge of fees for their participation down here at our facilities?
I would not be opposed to this particular one.
Right. Can I continue, sir?
Go ahead.
I was at the last meeting down here, quarter of a century ago, as well as being 2 meetings in Anchorage. The idea that was spoken many times, that there was a question of whether or not it was safe to meet down here, I still find very offensive. There's no question people down here very strongly are concerned about regulations, and it is their livelihood, it's their kids and their grandkids' future. And so they speak very strongly and certainly sometimes loudly. But I am still offended that members of Board of Fish and others associated with it have said that it is an issue of whether or not people are safe down here. That is absolutely repugnant. I really hope they'll have it down here. I think in dealing with us, we people down here, it's only right. It's part of the idea of no taxation without representation. You must certainly make all reasonable efforts that the people most affected have the most direct ability to participate and to watch the proceedings. And so I very much support this. I would hope that we could dispense with any fees if they come down here, if that might be a little bit of icing on the cake. But the major thing is that please, we need to pass this, and we need to encourage them to come down here. And like I said, if it's not wrong, I'd say that we don't charge any fees, but I'd leave that up to really management to make that decision, not the council. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Comments from Mr. Chilson?
I would just like to thank Cassidy for her efforts on trying to make this happen down here on the peninsula, and I fully support this. I'm glad to see us bringing this piece of legislation forward tonight. However, I would note that I believe we've passed similar legislation in the past, along with other municipalities on this peninsula, and every time it's fallen on deaf ears. And I think the reality is that there's a lot of politics that go into the board, and unfortunately, I think that steers their decision, not necessarily the logic of where they choose to hold these meetings. And the reality is our constituents deserve representation on that board, and I really hope that we see that happen down here, but I'm not optimistic about it. But nonetheless, I think it's important that we still make the statement and continue to persist in our request to see the board move down here on the peninsula. And I'm not up to speed on the current makeup of the body. Maybe there's been changes with the commissioners on there, and maybe they'd be more open to hearing our requests and fairly representing our constituents down here. So not optimistic, but still we need to make the statement nonetheless. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Any other comments or discussion? Vice Mayor Parker?
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. I would concur with the comments of Councilmember Carey and Chilson. And it has been a long time. I appreciate the flyer that has been put together by EDD to support the resolutions that show the facilities that we have. And maybe we need to tape Mr. Keefe's comments that he made earlier tonight, that the recruiting of physicians and to get personnel to the hospital, as they bring people in, they've identified that this is a community where they want to live. They like the feeling of the community. They feel safe. This is an area where they want to be. So maybe we need to extract that comments from the minutes so we can include it in a letter, because this is a community that has changed considerably since the last time the Board of Fish was here. And I know many members of Department of Fish and Game come here. They come here during Kenai River Sports Classic, and they're here, so they should feel comfortable bringing the Board of Fish here. Thank you.
Any other comments? Saying none, we'll call for the vote. Roll call vote.
Chilson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Hutchings,
Yes.
Wackler,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Carrie.
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes.
My next question here, our next item on the agenda, I will ask about, did we, seeing we did a lot of changes to the agenda and consent agenda, was action memorandum 2024-014 added to the consent agenda or regular agenda? That's the,
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Nelson objected to the adding of this to the consent. So this is up on the regular agenda, and now it's time.
all right. So action memorandum 2024-014 authorizing submission of comment to NOAA to determine whether to list Gulf of Alaska Chinook salmon under the Endangered Species Act introduced by the mayor. May I have a motion to approve? Ms. Hutchings,
I'll make a motion to approve.
may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Parker. Has everyone had an opportunity to see this memorandum and read the letter? Okay. Basically, it's to try to make this as short as possible. They are trying to put the Chinook salmon under a Endangered Species Act, which would have a great effect, a large effect on fishing here in not only southeast, but here in the Kenai River area and Kasilof and everywhere else. So this is a letter that was put together to state our objections to that action being taken. So, any council comments? And was there anything from the administration like to add to that?
No, excuse me. No, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Nelson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think it's important for us to be weighing in on these types of issues and monitoring. I have some significant concerns with this letter and the actions that are being proposed here. I agree that at a very quick glance, and I will admit I didn't see this until this afternoon and tried to spend some time understanding it, but a fish and scientist I am not. So I agree that there seems to be some process issues with how the National Marine Fisheries Service has proceeded based on the ADF&G briefing document that we were provided. But for something that's so critical to the economy, to other folks, to residents, I don't know enough about this to say that this is a bad idea nor a good idea. I'm not a biologist. And I guess my real concern, and I understand that sometimes timing is not good, as we talked about in our last resolution, for getting things done. I'm very uncomfortable doing this with a few hours only to look at this, and really only having one document, this ADF and G document, to talk about this without a lot of scientific or really any other expertise to help make a decision. So I'm not calling into question anything that Fish and Game says. They're excellent fisheries managers, and I don't dispute that, but it seems like this is being rushed, and I don't know if following this process is a good thing for salmon or a bad thing for salmon or our economy. I know I hear things, but there isn't really anything that has substantiated, what concrete may happen. So I'm very reluctant to support it for those reasons. More process for us and my own personal knowledge than anything here that the administration or the mayor's put together. But I felt it was important to have those comments on the record and let folks know. At least that's my personal viewpoint on it. I appreciate it.
I neglected to mention that this letter is very similar to the same action that the Kenai City Council took. I believe it was last week. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Parker,
Yes.
Hutchings,
Yes.
Wackler,
Yes.
Nelson,
No.
Carrie,
Yes,
Chilson.
Yes.
You have 5 yes, 1 no. The no vote was cast by Mr. Nelson.
Action memorandum 2024-014 is passed on a 5-1 vote. Next item on the agenda is mayor council reports. I have one last proclamation I will read here very quickly. And whereas the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks through its constitution stands as a patriotic order, and whereas the order upholds the ideals that citizens of this nation live in freedom, won through great sacrifices and numerous tribulations that have laid the foundation for a free, prosperous, and independent life. And whereas we recognize that each generation must diligently work to preserve this freedom, understanding that through carelessness or indifference, the rights and liberties we cherish may be lost. And whereas it is both fitting and proper to honor this freedom and the nation that provides it. Now therefore, I, Paul Whitney, Mayor of the City of Soldotna, do hereby proclaim September 9th through the 15th, 2024 as National Patriotism Week in the city, and urge all citizens to join with the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks in expressing gratitude for the privileges of American citizenship with appropriate celebrations and observance dated this 28th day of August, 2024. It's the report, our comments from the mayor. I was able to attend the 60th Kenai Peninsula Community College celebration, at which time Vice Mayor Parker was honored with a letter from the state of Alaska and the legislature commending her on her many years of service. I believe it was 8 years of service on the Board of Regents. And that was presented to her during that ceremony for their 60th anniversary out there at the college. So congratulations. Job well done. Next item I have here is Progress Days. It was a total success as far as I was concerned. I did have some concerns about the fact that it was moved to Parker Park, but the turnout was far exceeded anything that I ever hoped for, and far exceeded, I think, any turnout that we actually had when we've done it at Soldotna Creek Park. We did over 800, we did 800 hot dogs in 2 hours and 10 minutes. Mr. Chilson has now received his certificate as grill master. And with that, we decided maybe we'll do 1,000 hot dogs next year. And he can be there to do the vast majority of them. I have been appointed to the Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning Commission, and I was sworn in Monday, I think it was, and attended our first meeting. AML was held in Kodiak, and while we were in Kodiak, Vice Mayor Parker and myself and Ms. Queen had the opportunity to speak with the Kodiak Island Native Association, I believe it was them, chief executive officer who runs the marketplace there in Kodiak, which just opened within the last less than a year. Beautiful facility. The lower level of it, it's a commercial development. Upper level is offices and facilities for the use of the Native Association. The best part of that marketplace was the bakery. They had the best bakery that I've seen since Moose is Loose, got loose. But it was a great bakery. The facility, great idea, very large, about 40,000 square feet. It would be something that we had talked about in the riverfront development as a marketplace type thing. This one is a little bit too big for what would be our needs here. And right now they're still working at filling it up and getting it right. It's a beautiful facility and a good opportunity to see what can be done when everybody works together to put a good project together. I was happy to see when I drove by the field house today that there's nice pieces of steel and iron or whatever going up, and it's slowly taking shape. And I hope they're going to have it all enclosed before we have that weather that we normally get sometimes a year, and so that they can get the work done inside. And in fact, the article that was on the news today said something about they're even looking at early, maybe springtime 2025. We might hold that quote to somebody's feet come springtime. But it wasn't your quote, Kyle. I think that's all I have for tonight. I don't think I forgot anything. So next item is council report on boards and commissions and Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of August 7th. Ms. Wackler.
Thank you, Mayor. I did attend the Planning and Zoning meeting on August 7th. There were two topics of consideration, one regarding map rezoning and the other regarding mobile home park regulations. An amendment in that area. Resolution 2024-010 was amended to incorporate the proposed changes. So that was a change to basically the notice to vacate mandatory time period for mobile home parks from the state statutory 9 months to 12-month period to accommodate for residents to make arrangements to vacate that include always the summer months, no matter what time that they receive that notice. That change was unanimously approved by commission. The resolution PZ 2024-012 that someone spoke about earlier today, and we are going to hear at the council on the September 11th meeting, will most likely be very well attended. There were a number of residents who came in to speak, as well as the petitioners and their petitioner spokesperson, Jeffrey DeLifka. He spoke about recommending his petition to have the Tract A1 of the Blazy Park Subdivision number 3 be rezoned from single family, two-family to multifamily on the official zoning map. Therein, the question is located off of Cobuck Street, just south of Stacy, if you guys aren't aware. In the July 3rd Planning and Zoning meeting, the issue was discussed and there were several community comments, although due to the questions regarding noticing, the chair, administration, and the applicant decided to reopen public comments for the resolution in the August 7th meeting. So there have been residents who've come to speak at 2 Planning and Zoning meetings so far. There were a number of residents within the neighboring land present, as well as DeLifka noted that he and his fellow petitioners who own the land would like to see the area rezoned from split multifamily single two-family home to a single tract being completely multifamily. He stated that there is no development designed to at present, as they're in the beginning planning of that. So that was a number of main concern for a lot of the residents, was that they are opposed to the idea, but they'd like to see a plan. But we're just talking about rezoning. They do not have a plan in development that they can show. So in attendance at the meeting were many landowners who surround the area. They listed issues such as they purchased homes in the area with the land undeveloped and would prefer it to remain that way. Although it's not debated that we have any authority to stop private landowners from developing their land. The question remains of what our authority is and whether or not that plat is developed as a wholly multifamily or a single family, two-family units. The developers stated they will continue to develop the land in accordance with the decision in either direction. They don't necessarily have a strong opinion one way or the other. They just need this decision made to move on with planning. One of the things of note that administration did point out is the differences in a multi-unit plan versus single family, two family, is that a multi-unit plan would have more buffering requirements to adjacent properties and roadways, including setbacks and landscaping requirements. Those would be higher with a multi-unit development as opposed to single family. There is a potential for changing demographics with development in this area. It could affect surrounding property values. It would be speculation to assume an automatic drop in property values, but that's definitely a concern. It was noted that some of the residents were fearful of an increase in crime and vagrancy due to multifamily unit development near their homes. A higher amount of traffic for sure, I think would be something that we would have to consider the possibility of changing road patterns or developing some of the streets that we have for additional traffic. The commissioner comments included speaking about knowing that they have young adults in the area who have housing needs that just aren't getting met. So they did see that additional housing is needed in the area due to the rising costs associated with purchasing a home. And Commissioner Vadla mentioned it's becoming a trend in land development to have a mixed zoning so that there aren't desirable and undesirable areas. Traditionally, we have a commercial zone, then multifamily, and then individual home areas. And the trend is shifting to a more mixed, multi-age, multi-type zoning. It was also brought up that there was questions as to the legality of us not following the comprehensive land use map. But administration spoke to that and they can get into that detail when it comes to us. But ultimately, what I bring to you today is that ended on a tie vote. So they were unable to give us a recommendation. So that is going to come to us, and I'm sure we'll delve much further into all of those details next meeting. That
Any
is-
questions for Ms. Wackler? Thank you for the report. Next item on the agenda is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have several items. The first item that I have is regarding the lodging tax. Last week, postcards were mailed to approximately 75 short-term rental operators within the city. There were a few that went outside the city, and we've been informed of that. We decided to over notice and make sure that we capture everyone. So anyway, those have been mailed out. Also on our website, there's a link to the information about short-term rentals, the lodging tax, and operators can file to get their required certificate and additional information also. There will be links further as we move along to file the lodging tax information as well. Night drive tomorrow will, there'll be a closure between the Spur Highway and Kobuk for sinkhole repair, and the approximate time is 8:45 to 4:45. I know that several of you received email regarding the library cuts for the PLA grants. And I do want you to know that Rachel, our librarian, and I have met regarding this. The reduction of the funds for the city of Soldotna, I could be honest and say, we're going to be okay with that reduction in funds. However, the concern is more for the other libraries, especially the other libraries within the borough. Rachel provided some statistics I just wanted to pass on to you, and then kind of our action plan. But there's 34 public libraries statewide, and the grant is a large percentage of their annual budget, and they'll struggle to stay open and purchase new materials without it. And the libraries that she highlighted, Sylvia Library will have to decrease materials purchase and service hours. Nonilchik Community Library will be forced to close over the winter. Cooper Landing has stopped purchasing new materials and is canceling ongoing contracts. And the PLA grant will only support Anchorage Point Public Library's operations for 1 month. There was also a reduction in the SLED funding, and that statewide library electronic doorway, that also was a reduction. And Rachel states that all Alaskans will lose access to significant online resources provided by SLED. In trying to figure out what happened, I asked Rachel, and was this affected by any of the governor's vetoes? And not believing that it was, just needed to verify, and it was not. There's been a reallocation of funds within the state library budget, and needed funds were taken from this program. I sent an email to Mayor Machicki regarding a resolution, and I stated, I'm considering a resolution from Soldotna City Council. However, maybe a joint resolution, or you have a resolution, makes more sense. And then he immediately called me, and we spoke about he's going to contact the department and then consider a resolution. So I'll keep you posted as we move along and any updates, and there might be legislation before you. I'm not quite sure of that yet, but I'll keep you posted on that topic. As stated by the mayor, the field house is going vertical. And yes, there has been talk about March of 2025, but that will be construction. We don't know for sure because that always changes. However, it'll be the finishings on the inside that we still will need to complete. So we will not be opening March 25. I don't want that to be out in the public. Anyway, but we'll keep you posted, and we'll have more of a report as we go more vertical and get things in place. The ATAP project, as I call it, at Soldotna Creek Park, has started, and after many years of languishing, it has started, and the contractor is stating a completion date of October 31st of this year. So that project is moving along.
Ready for Halloween.
There you go. Ready for Halloween. USDA meetings. So the funding for the Fieldhouse CDS is coming through USDA. We have been attempting to communicate, and now I think we're on a good path for communication with ongoing meetings every couple of weeks to ensure that we are staying on track for the required paperwork and to work through the BABA waiver process, which is a significant process, but we are working through that process, and we'll continue to do that, and I'll keep you posted. I did want to say was it yesterday? We had KPED meetings with the city. KPED hosted the borough city managers, and thank you for that. We spoke about, and Maddie brought it up earlier, database that KPED is developing, referred to as a treasure chest of information. And I'm very much looking forward to this, and the pinpoint of information that for Soldotna that we can use, demographics, which we know the state keeps track of, but we can go deeper with this treasure chest as it's referred to. So really looking forward to working with KPED on receiving information, communicating about information. And I do have this that was developed by KPED. There's a link, and I'll make sure that you get it, and did a great job on it. And Cassidy is going to come to a future city council meeting and report on her annual report. I have it, but I spoke to Cassidy. I'm like, how about you present it? So anyway, she'll be back at a future meeting, and we'll work on those dates that she'll come back to the council. Something that was stated earlier regarding growth on the Kenai, and I know that I've talked to Mr. Carey, Councilmember Carey, about medical care. We've had these conversations, And as we know, there's been out-migration for a number of years, past 10 years for the state of Alaska, or approximately 53,000 people have left the state. However, this area on the Kenai is growing. And I do believe that it is really attributed to the medical care and our school systems, of course. Medical care, because it really is great medical care here, and more people will stay. They don't move to Anchorage for medical care anymore. So I just wanted to add that. I did have a council member contact me and asked if I could stop the rain. I can't, I'm sorry. So that's the end of my report, unless you have questions.
Any questions for the city manager? Okay, next item on the agenda is public comments. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on any item? Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on any item? Seeing none, I'll take a look at Zoom, and there are no hands raised there. Next item on the agenda, excuse me, council comments. Ms. Wackler.
So long ago. Progress Days was great, and I did want to make a comment that I really enjoyed the change of venue. I know we all love the Soldotna Creek Park, but having traditional parade, having small children in the recent past, I love that it ended there. I thought we got a lot more participation because everyone was there and you didn't have to think about transporting little kids, getting them back in the car, moving them. So the strollers were right there. And so I actually told the chamber members that I loved that change. And I thought it brought a new light to that area that I think might be underutilized by us. Maybe we could utilize in the future for stuff if we can figure out parking solutions on the weekends, maybe joint ideas with the borough of using their areas for open parking on, say, a Saturday where they're not being used. Maybe we could have some more Saturday markets, farmers markets, things along that line. I know there is a farmers market that's over in the little parking lot behind the Soldotna Elementary that may want a change of venue. Again, we're not in charge of that, but I think they may get more participation if it's in an easier area because that also has really no parking. But it was really fun. I really enjoyed helping out. And yeah, so it's not sunny anymore, but we don't need to keep talking about it. The start of school happened, and I absolutely love our schools. I've spent a lot of time in our local Soldotna schools in the last week delivering period products to all of them. And I've got to say, the staff that we have, the people that are in there, the children, I love our schools. So thank you for everyone in Soldotna that does everything for our kids, because it's amazing what teachers and staff do for our kids. And every day we should be appreciating them. So thank you and have a good evening.
Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I received a couple of calls in the last few days on the small library issue, the funding, the $7,000 that different libraries are not going to get, and the idea that Ninilchik would have to close. And so that got some information from the librarian in Ninilchik and came in today because I wanted to get that information out to everyone, and met with the clerk. And I want to say, I appreciate the conscientiousness on so many different levels of the city staff to find out when I came in with again, an idea that with a concern that had just been brought to my attention 2 days ago, to find out that the manager and our librarian is already, again, very much in the leadership of looking at what can be done and trying to assist with this. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what a small community should respond to. Ninilchik is as much our neighbor as anywhere could be. And again, in terms of the people that come here and use this. And so I hope as we continue to look at this, as the leadership continues to see how to assist and what can be done, I just appreciate it very much, knowing planning was to make a motion tonight about that issue. And again, after speaking with the clerk, after knowing again what our librarian and what our manager is working on, it's very obvious that it's two quick, and they're going to come up with more ideas for us. Second thing I wanted to mention, and again, I just appreciate very much being part of the council, and that's the work that was obviously done by Mr. Chilson in terms of the acknowledgement of Mr. Meyer and his work at the food bank. And listening to Mr. Chilson talk about the input he got from many different people and wanting to read different parts, it showed his conscientiousness. It showed the work that he was willing to do, the time and possibly even hours to put this together. That speaks well of all of us. I'm pleased to be part of a city council that has someone like himself, as well as all the council members and the mayor as part of it. And so it's just, it was very nice today. The whole meeting was real good. And again, but two positive things in terms of the people of this community are very conscientious, and it's nice.
Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. I too agree with Councilmember Wackler. I enjoyed having progress days at Parker Park, and the people were engaged, and it was fun being able to see them playing games and doing. I didn't get to the other end because I was busy helping with hot dogs and chips and soda, and we were busy. And there were a lot of people, and they definitely appreciated it. Recently at AML, Senator Murkowski came and addressed the mayors and the members of AML that were able to go to the meeting in Kodiak. And we asked her about Buy America, Build America, and if they were able to make adjustments, because it's a good idea, but it's just difficult to be able to buy everything. We don't make everything in the United States. We need to have that as a goal to do that, but we can't build projects with everything made in the United States at this time. And at my request, the AML agreed to send a letter to Governor Dunleavy saying that there are a lot of federal funds that are coming to Alaska that are being impacted by Buy America, Build America, that is going to affect jobs, economy in communities throughout the state. And if the governor would send a letter and work with the congressional delegation to find a way to get around and do a phase-in of Buy America, Build America. So that letter will be going from AML members to the governor in the near future. Unfortunately, I didn't check my calendar before I made it scheduled a conflict. I will not be able to attend the September 4th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So I'll look at the agenda, but unfortunately won't be able to attend. And I want to add my final comment is, in my opinion, every day is National Patriotism Day. It's not just 1 week, but it's every day in my life. Thank you.
Just for the Planning and Zoning Commission, they basically didn't have anything on their agenda, just a work session. Mr. Jolson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree. I thought Progress Days was a blast this year, and I had a lot of fun learning all the secret tips and tricks from you. So look forward to helping out with that again next year, and I'd love to see it return to Parker Park. The other comment I have is today I attended a presentation from the board behind the Peace Crane Garden Trails to give an update on their progress over there. For anyone that hasn't driven by in the area, they've been doing great work. The first of the Tory gates has gone up, and it looks beautiful. It's just incredible to see that in the park and walk through it. They have an additional one that's going to go up in front of that, right adjacent to Marydale, that's going to be even larger with some beautiful metal gate work with some cranes welded into it. And the preliminary art that we saw looks incredible. So I'm just really excited to see the development that they've done with that park and the plans they have to continue forward with it. And I think it's going to be an incredible and very beautiful asset to our community. And I personally am just thrilled to live right next to it. So that's all.
Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. I just have one comment tonight, just a kind of about a neighboring city, but I wanted to mention it. I was down in Southeast last week, and of course, Ketchikan had a very severe landslide, and I'm sure you may have seen the news, but a city employee lost his life working that landslide. So thoughts to his family and his professional family as well. And I know the city and the borough down there are working very, very hard on that issue. So I just want to keep them in our thoughts tonight.
Ms. Hutchings.
Well, I just want to comment on the mini grant applicants. I have supported Way Out Women for years, so I was really happy to see that they're getting some funds from us. And the Soldotna Silver Salmon Swim Team, my youngest son, that's where he learned to swim, over here at the Sohai Pool. So that has been an organization that's been going strong for a number of years. So I was very happy to see that grant awarded as well. Thank you.
There's one thing I did forget to mention during my reports. The fish sculpture for Soldotna Creek Park is moving along. There's questions on where it's going to be placed. And I know the city, Kyle is working with them on that as to the placement. They would like to have that in place by the end of October, but that may not happen. It may have to wait until springtime because of other things that are going on in the park. So moving on to the next agenda item, executive session, there's no reason for one. Meeting announcements, September 4th, 2024, Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, 5:30 PM. September 5th, 2024, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting at 5:30 PM. And September 11th, 2024, City Council meeting, 6 PM here in the council chambers. And seeing no other items on the agenda, we are adjourned.